Last but not least is this whole area of financial. You've got to have specific financial objectives. And there's a number of suggestions in the book on different areas where you can set these overall specific objectives. You've got to consider all of your programs. You need to have objectives for your children's program, your youth program, your music. Don Ford at First United Methodist Church in Tulsa's got one of the best music programs that I've seen in America. But he's got a well-thought-out plan. Don cares for his people. He listens to his people. It's no accident that First United Methodist has a fine music program. You've got to have objectives for your senior citizens, young adults, people with problems, your lay ministry. The only way you're going to get anything done is when you have these specific targets. Now, here's how you go through the process of setting those targets. About now, if you've been having luncheon or breakfast meetings, it's time to take at least a full day out or another 2 or 3 day retreat and get everybody together and break them up into groups again and have them start to put numbers down. Now, what I suggest is go out at least 5 years or a minimum of 3 years and say, what are we aiming at in that 3rd, 4th, and 5th year? The different groups work on it independently. Now, notice what's happening is you're having interaction and discussion. It's important that people be involved and discuss and talk through what these targets should be. Then you come back and you moderate. You come back and begin to discuss. Your discussion leader works off of a chalkboard or a flip chart and continually puts those long-term targets. What is it we're really trying to aim for? We did this with Victory Christian. We went by to an accommodations at a nearby lake, and we worked all day on what those targets should be. But it's important that you get your long-term targets first. It's a mistake to say, well, here's where we are now. What are we going to do next year? It's more important, and I believe has to be the longer term, where do we want to go, and then you back in and say, well, here's what we should do in the 3rd year, the 2nd year, and the 1st year. Now, if the plan is over-ambitious, then you come back, and if you just can't accomplish what you want to do in the 1st year, to make the 5th year come about, then you go back in what I call the accordion effect, and you go back and forth, till years 1 through 5 fit together and make sense. And have some fun on the retreats, too. It's important to go for a walk. Vince Lombardi, the world-famous football coach when he was at the Green Bay Packers, said one of the keys to a successful team is that team's got to love each other. When I look at translating what I learned into sports, into business practice, and in helping you manage and do the best you can in your church and ministry, it's important that your staff love each other. And our day-to-day life is so busy. Sometimes you just can't really get to know that associate pastor, that person right in the office next to you, until you just take a walk out in the woods. Just driving to one retreat, I had the privilege of being in a car with Billy Joe Daugherty for 2 hours, and we just had a chance to talk as we drove down the highway and get to know each other better. Now, once you've got your objectives set, then you take each specific objective. And that's basically what we've done at First Presbyterian. We've taken each one of these key result objectives then and created even another task force to work on the strategies and the operational plans. Now, it's going to take weeks and weeks of work, let's say, on your building committee. You've got to go out and get even more people on your committee. Now, here it's a good idea. You've got architects. You've got landscaping people. There's good talent out there to help you plan in your church. Now, it might take 10 to 15 weeks. These committees continue to meet. They continue to report back either in breakfast or luncheon meetings or in full group meetings. And you're narrowing in the plan for each of those objectives. Now, what I usually do, and I've done in every case, is once you've then got the whole plan together, you have one last retreat and say, okay, here's the full plan from start to finish. You review each step of the process. You've got everybody that's there that's been part of it, and you say, okay, one last time, now do we think we're on target? Now that's how you put together a strategic plan. Now, notice also that the plan is in writing, and every step of the way we're typing, we're handing out handouts, we're actually writing down what each subcommittee is doing. There's distribution, a wide range of distribution going out so that everybody knows what every other committee is doing. There's no secrets in the strategic planning process. The plan's in writing. Notice also that quite a large number of people have been and gotten involved in the plan. Now this is important because those that execute the plan have to be in on the plan. One of the worst things that can happen to you is if the senior pastor and I took a couple of more people out, we went through and put the plan together and just presented to the church and the elders, well, here's what we're doing. That just doesn't work in America. Then it's our plan. Well, that's Henry's plan. You just brought a consultant in. That's Henry's plan. Then when you say go execute it, it's just day-to-day business as usual. What I see happening, when you get that many people involved, it's thought out and you're behind it and everybody says, amen, that's what we're going for. You've got a plan in action and things happen. I'm seeing that happen all across America. Everybody that's taken the time to go through this process has been able to get an excited group of people 100% behind the plan. Things are taking place, and most of those mistakes and false starts are just fallen by the wayside. Now, I encourage you to go through the book, to read the book carefully. Do like Morris Cerullo did. I've never seen anybody read my material in more depth than Pastor Morris Cerullo. He knows even better than I do what's in those books. You've got to understand how this planning process works. Take the time to get your people involved. Open up and listen to ideas. If you'll follow the procedures that we're talking about, you're going to have a well-documented strategic plan. God's going to be involved in the plan. There's going to be a sense of excitement in your church and ministry. Now, in conclusion, after you've put all this time and effort into a planning process, what's likely to happen? Here's what I think is going to happen. You're going to have time, senior pastor and associate pastors, to do many of the things that you feel God has really called you to do. You're going to have time to minister to the people. Your life is going to be better. You're not going to have to work as many long hours. There are going to be fewer fires to put out. After having done church planning conferences and getting to know pastors over the past few years, I've begun to sense that the greatest struggle that most pastors have is in this whole area of planning and managing. The great joy is out ministering with the people, but the struggle has been, how do I manage all the resources? How do I get the people involved? And how does the day-to-day work take place? If you learn to manage, strategically manage with this process, pastor, associate pastors, the business of the church is going to go on and on and on, and you're going to have an opportunity to do the kind of ministering that you want to do. You're going to be able to manage with a lot less heartache and struggle. You're going to have an organization and a staff that knows what they're doing, and they can operate without you. You're going to be able to go on vacation without panic phone calls. Think about what can be accomplished when everybody knows where you're going, everybody knows what their job is, and the only way they need to get a hold of you is if something's wrong or they're not on target. And I can see this in many pastors. They are enjoying life. There is no sense in being burnt out. I see too many burnt out pastors and associate pastors all over America. This does not have to be this way. If you'll do a good job of planning and managing, getting people behind the plan, then you're not going to have to spend as much time putting out fires, answering criticisms, and constantly struggling with people bickering with each other. Now, remember, it's important that that plan be in writing. It's important that you have a bound plan that everybody can look at. Remember, it's important to get everybody's ideas and involvement in the plan. Another thing that I think is very strong and a very good idea, and I see this done in quite a number of ministries, churches and ministries. For example, after we had gone through the purpose discussions, Dr. James Buskirk in a Sunday morning service talked for about 10 minutes about the vision and dream. He specifically referred to the purpose statement and the fact that a 5-year strategic planning process was taking place. You can use your church bulletins. Everybody needs to know about these targets. Pastor Dale Brooks in Calvary Temple, he gets out and talks about each stage of the planning process in a series of sermons so that people see that overall strategic direction. They know what the targets are. Dale Brooks is asking for ideas. All these things are important as you plan, and notice I'm using the word strategically manage the church. Don't leave God out of the process. If you'll pray about the planning process, if you'll pray for a sense in your spirit that you're on target, God will answer those prayers. You're going to get a sense that, yes, I'm on target. This is what we're supposed to do. I'm so glad that you've taken the time to watch this program. I encourage you to get a copy of the book, Strategic Planning in Churches and Ministries. I encourage you to study what's going on in other churches and ministries. I encourage you to go through the step-by-step process to learn what this planning process is all about. Then, once you've got good information, I hope you'll make the decision to put together a planning task force that you'll develop a strategic direction for your church, just like the one we've talked about here on this program. I prayerfully am asking you to go through these steps, and I believe you're going to be excited about the turnover. God bless you today.